The next part of the ceremony will be more purification. For this part of the practice, the Lopan will hold the mirror in one hand and the activity vase in the other, and will pour blessed water from the activity vase over the mirror, reflecting the name of the deceased. In this way, purifying the deceased. Also, the Lopan will take sand, again tossing sand toward the name of the deceased, and fanning the deceased with the bumdro, or the blessing wand. By doing these various actions, it says in the text, deceased, may your 3 poisons, 5 poisons, 8 poisons, all of your obscurations be cleansed and purified by the deities of Amitabha. Attachment, aversion, and bewilderment are the 3 poisons of the world. The 3 jewels are without poison. Poison is conquered by the truth of the 3 jewels. All obscurations of the 3 poisons of the deceased are purified. This concludes the purification section. The next purification for the deceased involves the mirror, a lamp, and the labum. During this, the Lopan takes blessed sand, tosses it at the names of the deceased, and fans the deceased as a way of saying, may your 4 elements, the elements of your body, speech, and mind, may they be purified. The Lopan also holds a mirror toward the lamp, reflecting it as another method of purification. This ends and concludes the next section of purification. The next section is the offering of auspiciousness. Rice is tossed toward the name of the deceased several times, and the bell is rung as a way of wishing for the auspiciousness for the deceased. And the Lopan also uses the labum bumdro to sprinkle the deceased with blessing water. At the conclusion of this section, the Lopan throws rice into the air as a general sign of auspiciousness for the deceased. This concludes the offering of auspiciousness. Following this extensive purification, the deceased is offered an empowerment. At the beginning of the empowerment, either a relative of the deceased or the Chopan takes the names of the deceased on a standard to the rear of the assembly and performs 3 prostrations while the chanting continues. In this way, the deceased, in the person of their family member or the Chopan, requests the empowerment. After that, the deceased, in the form of the entire assembly, takes refuge, renews their refuge vows, and following this, the Lopan begins the empowerment by taking the victorious vase, which contains the mandala of Amitabha, and sprinkles the Jangnu as a way of purifying them for the empowerment. After this, prayers are said in which the deceased is visualized to be a Chenrezig, and Amitabha Buddha is requested to come from his natural abode and dissolve into the deceased. Music is played, and we imagine Amitabha coming to the place of empowerment. Then the Lopan takes the Vajra and places it over the names of the deceased, saying Tiktra Benzra, as a way of saying, may you be inseparable from the deities. Underneath the names of the deceased is a bowl of tea and a bowl of sur, or burnt offering substance. We also have the 4 sakalis, and each of these are used in the empowerment. The first empowerment is the vase empowerment. The Lopan says, "Disciple, the deceased one, listen. Externally, this vase is a precious vase. However, inside it is a precious palace. In its midst is Amitabha and the deities of Dewa Chen. Waves of splendor fall like rain and dissolve into your body. May you obtain the complete 4 empowerments. Om Amidewa Hri." And then water is poured into the tea bowl as a way of offering the empowerment to the deceased. Next, the first sakali, a sakali of food, is held in front of the deceased. Inside an agreeable vessel, the meat, yogurt, butter, liquor, and tea are, in essence, wisdom ambrosia, generating undefiled bliss, and those are shown to the deceased. Next, the deceased is blessed again. Next, the deceased is shown the next sakali, which is the 8 auspicious emblems. Deceased child, listen. May you obtain these 8 auspicious signs, just as I give them to you, and may you accomplish auspicious pleasure and excellence. And then the deceased is touched with that empowering sakali. The 7 articles of royalty are shown to the deceased, and it's prayed that the deceased will obtain the 7 articles of royalty. Finally, a sakali of the 4 dakinis is shown to the deceased and blessed, and the deceased is blessed by the deceased being shown this sakali, moving from top to bottom as a way of describing the descent of the 4 joys in the experience of awakening. Finally, the Lopan holds the sur tray aloft and says, "Kema, deceased child of potential, accept this enjoyable feast. Since this is your last meal, partake of food to be enjoyed in all births and an inexhaustible sky treasury. Joyfully take this food, given in perfect generosity." And then the person who's deceased is told, "The living do not meet the dead. You have passed from this life. Do not be attached to the living. Depart for the land of great bliss." And then the chopan is given the tray of sur offering substances, takes it out of doors, and burns it on the fire. This is the first part of the empowerment. When the sur tray, representing the deceased, leaves the shrine room, that concludes the empowerment. Next, there is the burning of the names. And for this part of the practice, the Lopan holds aloft the lamp, reciting, "The lamp is a lotus and moon. The melted butter is the mantra garland, revolving clockwise. The wick is the red Hri syllable. Through the blazing of the 5 wisdoms fire, the wrongs and obscurations of the 5 poisons and the 5 impure skandhas of the deceased are burnt. They become the pure body of Amitabha, possessing the major and minor marks." Then the entire assembly, along with the Lopan, recites the second half of the Tunji Laminaljor, the powerful purification Bhura Yoga. Then, after that, the Lopan picks up the lamp again and recites the second half of the lamp prayer. "The blue root of this flame is the wisdom fire of Vajrasattva. Above that, the red flame is the wisdom fire of Amitabha. The yellow center flame is the wisdom fire of Ratnasambhava. The white flame above that is the wisdom fire of Vairocana. The black peak of the flame is the wisdom fire of Amoghasiddhi. This is the fire of the 5 victorious families. By burning up your 5 skandhas with the flame of the 5 wisdoms, may your 5 poisons be permanently purified, and may you obtain the 5 wisdoms and the 5 bodies. And then, when the practice takes place indoors, this lamp is then used to light the card containing the names of the deceased. And those names are then lit, burned, and placed in a bowl. Then sand, blessed sand, and sprinkling from the victorious vase is placed upon them to bless them. This concludes the burning of the names. Now we have purified the deceased, we have blessed the deceased, we have empowered the deceased, and now the entire ceremony comes to a close for the deceased. The Lopan speaks to the deceased. You who have passed from this life, in the west is the realm of Sukhavati, Dewa Chen. It is a pure place of great benefit and quality. In the southwest is the land of carnivorous Rakshasas, in which abides Guru Padmasambhava. Birth there is easy, but of little benefit. Other Buddha realms are those of the 4 other victorious families. Birth in those realms is difficult to achieve, so leave them aside. Go to Sukhavati. Fierce wind blows from my nostrils, striking the moon disk in the sky. The consciousness of the deceased, in the form of Amitabha on the moon, is propelled to Sukhavati like an arrow shot from a bow. And then the master falls quiet. And after a moment of quiet, the master recites the word Hey as a way of shooting the consciousness of the deceased into the pure realm. Hey! And then the deceased is considered to have been reborn in Dewa Chen. Now this concludes this section of the Zhangcho. The very last section of the Zhangcho is a short ceremony for those who are alive. Names of the living are also placed in front of the master. The master then says, on a moon in a midst of flames is the patron in the form of Amitabha. In his 3 places are the 3 syllables, white, red, and blue. In his abdomen, secret place, and crown are a yellow ho, green ham, and smoke-colored shka. Light rays projected from my heart invite all of the victors of the 10 directions, together with their children, blue, white, yellow, and red. These dissolve into his body. He comes to wear the Vajra armor, and then the names of the living are burned and placed in the bowl. In this way, the names of the living are also blessed and purified. And this concludes the practice of Zhangcho.